Morning, Peter.
Morning, Luke. How are you?
Yeah, fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good, actually.
Good. Thank you for joining us under such strange circumstances. Understand you're probably mad busy at the moment, so yeah, really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
First off, I just want to touch on the Care 20 campaign that obviously you and Pets at Home have very kindly lent your backing to. Just give us a sense of why you guys have done that, why you thought it was such a great cause that you wanted to be involved in.
We've always been long-term supporters of Retail Trust because we've seen enormous benefit and value that they've added to our business, to our colleagues. And whilst we've been able to take care of our own teams, we set up £1 million colleague hardship fund. We recognise that we're in a lucky camp because we're being defined as an essential retailer and we're still open, we're still trading. But we recognise that lots of our fellow retailers on our retail parks and across the country, we can see what severe challenges that they face. And we think it's only right as an organisation that not only do we look after our people, but we do our best to help those people who need our help. And that's why we wanted to support and give something back to those who have given so much back to us over the years.
How important do you think it is for retailers in general to get behind causes like this, particularly in the strange times that we find ourselves in at the moment?
I think it's massively important. We are retail businesses and we are built on people. And our people expect us to help look after them when times are tough. I think it's very easy when times are good to do all the good things, but organisations are really deemed uh, at their best, I think, when your people need help the most.
Mm.
And I think now is the time more than any other time that we've got to step up to the plate and not only lend support to our own organisations and our own people, but recognise in the retail industry we've got to support each other. Our colleagues will move between those organisations, I'm sure, at some point in time. And I think this is an opportunity for organisations who have always done well to be able to share that value and that do good for other people.
Mm. I mean, you touched on it quite a bit there, but what message would you give to other retailers right now to get behind the Care 20 campaign?
I think we're all focused now on our immediate challenges and issues, and I know more than anybody how tough that is, and actually how we're all worried about cash flow, and all those things. But I think here, if every organisation made a contribution as much as they could possibly afford collectively, we could make a massive difference. So I think it's all about the relativity for those organisations to say giving something back will make a big difference.
Mm.
And don't forget, these are also your customers too, as well as your people. And I think it sends a very clear message to those organisations who are able to support that you have supported. And I think it'll go a long way. And I think it'll be remembered for a long time.
Yeah. You mentioned it there in terms of some of the challenges that you guys are facing as a business. We've obviously heard a lot from the grocery retailers in particular about what their challenges are. We've heard from a lot of the fashion retailers who are maybe grappling with, do we carry on trading online, etc., and the challenges around that. But we've not really heard too much from you guys so far, but obviously you're a very essential retailer as well in terms of looking after hundreds and thousands of pets across the UK. How are you finding things? What are the big challenges that you are having to grapple with right now?
We're somewhere between the supermarkets and sort of the pure non-food retailers because we sort of have a half and half business. We serve 6 million customers. That's roughly 1 in 3 dogs in the country and 1 in 4 cats in the country require us to stay open to feed them. And I think whilst people are very much focused on humans, our entire business is focused on their pets. And so firstly, we were very thankful that the government have allowed us to stay open because frankly, if we weren't open, we wouldn't be able to feed the nation's pets. So we recognise first and foremost that's our first responsibility to be able to do so. And that's what we've been focused in on. We also have 450 veterinary practices. So we also are providing essential emergency medical treatment to pets that need it. And actually, despite the virus, pets will still fall ill, there will still be accidents, there will still be needs. And therefore, we focus all our energies on doing the things that the country needs us to do right now. And that means we've switched off things that we deem not to be important and things that we can wait and things that can be held on for a few weeks. So it's been really challenging, I have to say, because obviously everybody's focused on humans. I think you try telling a pet owner that their pet is not essential, and see the backlash. And so we've had incredible support from our people who recognise the role that they play. But also, I have to say, customers have been phenomenally brilliant and supportive of the fact that we are open, and it is really challenging. And they've supported us, and we've done our best to support them. And I think we are all in this together. But it's been really challenging. I think even staying open, I think a lot of people say, oh, well, you're lucky because you've stayed open. I have to say that brings a bucket load of other challenges that we've had to work our way through, and things that would normally take weeks and months, we've literally had to do in hours and days. And it's been exhausting for everybody, but we've got there. And I think as non-food retail starts to reopen, and it will happen, there's an awful lot of knowledge in businesses like ours and the supermarkets that we can share with non-food players. But how do you cope with social distancing? What are all the things that you need to do to look after your people? Because we've been through it. And I would say anybody who wants that, just pick up the phone, drop me an email. I'm happy to share all of that with people, because we've had to write all of those protocols literally overnight, and we've stress tested them, and more than happy to share them with anybody who wants them.
I'm sure a lot of people will take you up on that offer, Peter. You talked about some of the things that you've had to do in hours rather than days, or days rather than weeks. Can you just give us a few examples of the sorts of things you've had to do at pace during this pandemic?
I mean, social distancing has been a really good example of that, where we have had to work out in our stores, how do you maintain the 2 metre difference around all your shops? How do you install sneeze guards or big plastic screens in front of your checkouts? Doing 450 stores in 2 weeks. How do you cope with cash versus contactless? How do you manage your queuing systems? These are all very, really important to maintain safety. And in every store being slightly differently, how do you write a protocol that works for all those stores? So that's just a really simple example of what we had to do literally, and we had 12 hours notice to do it.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? And a lot of the grocers have talked about this, but the efforts of colleagues on the shop floor to get all that done has been fantastic, and I'm sure it's been exactly the same in your business.
Absolutely. And I think, this is where really I'm so thankful being in this organisation for the passion and the enthusiasm that we've seen from our people. And it's not just that, actually. I think at times, it's the amazing kindness that we've seen from our colleagues who are delivering food to elderly customers, to vulnerable customers, and they're doing it off their own back. We've seen colleagues who've been buying food themselves to deliver to their regular customers because they can see they're in need. And I've just been blown away by the sheer generosity and kindness that I've seen come out from our people, and actually indeed our customers, at such a challenging time.
How do you touched on this earlier, but obviously you've got to serve the day-to-day needs of the customer, make sure your colleagues are happy, safe and well, but how do you balance that with the sort of short-term cash flow situation, and also start to think about the longer-term situation as we start to get through this?
Yeah, I think you've got to ruthlessly prioritise. And literally, I remember on sort of day one of the crisis, as a team, we sat down and we wrote what we felt to be the most important priorities through this crisis. And I have to say they've steered us really well, because I think when you got a level head, it's easy to write those priorities. When you're stuck in it and you're fighting a war and dealing all these issues, sometimes you get lost. So we focused on the things that really matter, and they started off with making sure that our people and our customers were safe, our pets were well looked after, because there's a series of priorities that you just got to do. And that then allowed us to say, actually, what? Some of the things that we've been doing that are nice to do, we can just pause and we can stop, because actually keeping cash flowing through the organisation is crucial. It keeps us alive. And a P&L right now is sort of a bit of a nonsense, but cash is reality. Very simply, how much is coming in, how much is going out, and it does allow you to ruthlessly prioritise what really matters. But also, and I think now more than ever, the values of the organisation really should guide what you do. Because there's no such a thing as a minor lapse of integrity, And I think we've kept those really the front and centre of when we make a decision. Is it in line with the values of the organisation? Because this is a short-term crisis. We will come out the other end of it, and people will remember not what happened, but they'll definitely remember how we did it.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think there will be longer term changes necessary, whether it be in your, your business operations and the way your cost structures? Will those things need to change? Will you have to change how you market to customers? Will customer shopping habits change? Have you had a chance to think about those longer term questions in the heat of this crisis?
I think we're all trying to work our way through them. I think it would be incredibly naive of any business leader to sit here saying, actually, we assume in 12 weeks' time we'll return back to normal, because normal has gone. We talk about, at the minute, we talk about our abnormal normal, and then we talk about our new normal, because fundamentally some behaviours have changed dramatically over the last few weeks. Now, customers now are, in their day-to-day lives, like us, we're so used to doing video conferencing. So things for us like telemedicine, we talked about that. Now we're doing telemedicine real life in all our surgeries because we have to. I suspect that will maintain. I also think it's quite interesting, I think when we think about online shopping, I think most people's experience of online shopping in the last 3 weeks has been pretty dreadful. You're waiting longer than ever.
Yeah.
So it's going to be that's going to be quite interesting to work out that clearly online's running at full pelt, and we can all demonstrate there's not enough capacity. But I also think it's shown actually at times how rubbish it can be. I'm not quite sure what that's going to mean in terms of when we have the ability to get out again, whether we'll actually all flock back into stores. So undoubtedly there's going to be changes. So we're trying to predict what those are. But I think actually if your strategy was good going in, I think your strategy is still probably relevant. I think the tactics that you need to employ to deliver it have probably tweaked. And that's what we're going back to look at, saying actually, okay, the direction of travel is still the same, but the execution probably needs to change. And actually, what are those changes in execution that you need to apply?
And just finally, Peter, how have you found things from a leadership perspective? I assume you're in the office today. This isn't a very glamorous kitchen you've got at home, but
Definitely
how are you balancing your time between home, the office, stores? How are you juggling all of that?
I think I think this is probably the biggest thing for everybody, is trying to find their new normal. I have the benefit, I literally live 2 roundabouts away from the office, and the office is probably the safest place in the world because in this big building, I think there's 7 people. So
Really?
I've got all this space. It's actually been quite good. So it's given me actually a routine. And I think when I speak to my colleagues who are working from home, what they've tried to find is a routine, and we're all desperately trying to find that routine. I think it's fair to say, video conferencing has kept us sane. Whilst we've faced some really difficult decisions, we've also tried to keep an awful lot of fun in what we do, trying to make each other laugh. We've set up buddy networks. We've set up lots of things to keep people connected and in tune. We've got home worker groups. I do a daily video to everybody in the organisation, just talking about what's gone on today, how we make sense of it. But more importantly, over 50% of that video now is made up from people thanking each other for the things that they've done. So we try to make sure that, I think now more than ever, as a leader, you've got to be massively visible. And we've just tried to make sure, I've certainly tried to make sure I'm visible to the organisation every day. And it gives me a great opportunity to explain the why behind a decision. Because sometimes people see the what and they go, that's stupid. Whereas actually it's given me the chance to verbalise the why, explain stuff, and also at times just demonstrate that this is pretty hard, and show the human side of leadership. And I think it's working well for us, but probably now more than ever, we as retail leaders need to be massively visible.
No, agreed. Peter, thank you so much for joining us today and for being visible to us. I really do appreciate your time, and we also really appreciate your support for the Care 20 campaign as well. Thank you so much for that.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll see you soon in person once all this is behind us.
That's great. Thanks, Luke.
Cheers, Peter. Thanks.
Thank you.